Welcome to the Reinbold Report. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, and I am your host, Andrew Hunt, here with Representative Laura Reinbold. Welcome.
Thank you.
So today's topic, one that you're very passionate about, is education. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened this morning in the Education Committee?
First of all, education is so important. We have 130,000 kids in public education. Education affects parents, it affects teachers, it affects hundreds of thousands of people across the state, and that's why I've chosen education as very, very, very important. And today's a very exciting day because parental rights are natural rights, so please never lose sight of the fact that parental rights are natural rights. But today, to codify that into statute, Senate Bill 89 passed out of House Education today, so huge day to celebrate parental rights, and we're really, really looking forward to hopefully getting this bill on the House floor in the near future.
Very good. My next question, what role does the legislature play in education in Alaska?
Great question. It's what role do they play and what role should they play? So I think that we'll probably try to hit on a couple different angles. According to the state constitution, the legislature is supposed to not only create laws to direct education, but they're supposed to open a public education system and keep it open to all students. But they absolutely need to direct education and oversee education. In addition, the courts over and over again, even in the most recent case, the Moore case, have said absolutely it's the legislature that directs and oversees education.
So what is the current status of education in Alaska?
I wish I had better news. Right now it's the federal government, unfortunately, even though it's not explicit in the United States Constitution, they have played a huge role in education. Starting back in 1965 with the Every Student Elementary Secondary Education Act, that basically they got their foothold in the doors, and even though we spend trillions of dollars at a federal level, the federal government has not been able to close the achievement gap. And then we saw the No Child Left Behind, and then the last 2 years we've been on the No Child Left Behind waiver, and that's been pretty much a disaster. And now we have the Every Student Succeeds Act, where we still have some serious issues with this overall, this Every Student Succeeds Act. However, they're stating that there's a little bit more local control, and so we're trying to make sure that we take that opportunity. I think what it should be happening is that the state legislature should be the head and the federal government the tail. Instead, we have a Department of Education where many of those people are paid for the federal government and really end up just being federal government enforcement officers.
So who is paying the bill when it comes to education in Alaska?
Great question. We spend about $2 billion a year on education in this state every single year. And it's a very, very big expense. And that's only for K-12 education. So the federal government only pays about 10%. So a pretty small fraction considering how much influence they try to have over education in the state of Alaska. The state pays about 70 or maybe a little bit more, maybe 75% of education costs. So they by far pay the lion's share of education. Then there is some local contribution depending on which community you're in. They pay about 10%.
So what is your solution to this issue? How do we fix this problem?
Well, I think it's very, very important that we involve the parents across every socioeconomic barrier, across any race, across any issue. It's the parental involvement and making sure that parents' rights are protected and that the parents are able to help get their students through. So we absolutely have to maintain parental involvement and encourage their involvement in education. We must protect local district rights. We absolutely need to act like a state sovereign over education and not quit just rolling over to the demands. Many people believe unconstitutional demands of the federal government. So I think taking back control over education, directing our own standards, our own assessments, and encouraging parents to stay involved in education.
Very good. My next question has to do with an amendment that you dropped on the House floor during the budget. It had to do with Common Core, and it actually led to a hearing that was supposed to be this Friday. It did get postponed. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yes, absolutely. Very, very important issue. This is one more federal overreach. They tried to develop nationwide standards called the Common Core State Standards. Unfortunately, Alaska pretended to create their own standards, but really they plagiarized the Common Core standards. And so we as legislators absolutely did not want the Common Core. We did not want them that implemented. So there was a state statute that was put into place that basically prohibited the use of state funding to implement a set of standards, even based on the Common Core. So that was put into statute back in 2014, and so I know that there's districts across the state that are not following state statute, and so this hearing, basically we were getting an amendment put in on the budget, and even though sometimes it's not the votes you get, it's the issues you raise, and this is a very important issue. So several legislators, I believe 7 or 8 legislators now, have opened up a process, signed a letter, sent it to the Department of Education, and they're asking for an investigative hearing on whether districts are spending money to implement standards based upon the Common Core.
Excellent. Thank you again for taking the time to answer the questions we had about education. And can you tell us about what we're going to be doing next week?
Outstanding. Yes, the AMP assessments are coming up really quickly. They're actually starting right now, and I really want to encourage parents. You do have the right to opt out, and if they will not allow you to opt out, refuse the assessment. So we are going to be going into a few concerns in regards to that issue and ensuring that parents don't let government take your rights away. Those are your students' rights and your rights, and they're natural rights. So make sure that you protect them and exercise those rights. And of course, we'll be talking about the budget. The budget is a very, very big issue. We're at about a $4 billion deficit already this year. So they're getting closer and closer to your pocketbooks. So in order to protect your pocketbook, you need to stay tuned.
Excellent. Thank you for tuning in to the Reinbold Report.